You had some pretty cool musicians on there as well.
Yeah.
Chris Waller, for one, played.
amazing,
Not
yeah.
only produced, but played. That's how amazing he is.
He's amazing.
And
Sometimes at the same time.
played and produced.
He'd be producing and he would be playing at the same time.
Wow, that almost sounds like this could be his album, with you two guesting on it.
Basically, it's Chris Wallace's album, yeah. No, it's not. It's not.
But you had him, you had Matt Sharp, you had Hunter Bergman from AFI, Matt Sharp from the Rentals.
Yeah.
With these people who have played in other successful bands, working with you, do you treat them differently to how you would just treat a session musician? Sorry if you're a session musician watching this.
No, I mean, our band is all session, like, they're not, some of them do session stuff, most of them are just hired guns, though, like our whole backing band, so I think we've always tried to make everybody feel as included as possible, and we were joking last night at dinner that we run our band like a communist nation, like everyone gets an equal piece when possible, so when Matt and Hunter and Jason and Chris and Kaki and Ted all got in the room with us to start laying down their parts, I mean, we treated everyone the same. Didn't matter how many records. We were not checking how many gold records people had before they got on in the studio. But, I mean, you trust those kind of people that have been really creative before. But I didn't trust Hunter more than I trust Ted, or vice versa, even though Ted is just been Tegan and Sarah. I mean, he's only been a part of our project, really, like no other big name projects, but he played a lot on the record, and I trusted him as much as I trust Hunter, even though Hunter's in a huge band. Like, I think that we draw to us really great creative people, and I think in order to have gotten past the listening stage and to the actual being in the recording session stage, you would have had to instill a lot of trust in us, and I think a lot of the people that were working with us were people that we really trusted musically, who we felt really understood what we were trying to do, and
know the project
really well and expressed interest. It wasn't like we went and solicited Hunter and Matt, like they're friends who heard the demos and specifically requested to be involved. Like, Hunter's exact words were like, I'd love to be involved in some way anyway. And
the thing that was cool
and I just felt really good about that, because it's like, he was really busy and working on his own stuff and touring, and if he was that interested in being involved, then I knew that he was going to bring a lot of really great energy to the music, which was really exciting.
It's cool too, like with someone like Matt. We know Matt from his solo project, less from the Rentals or from Weezer or whatever, and I really only know him as he's been playing like acoustic guitar and playing some Moog stuff and whatever, and he actually played some keyboards on So Jealous. And when it came time to record this album, we had already recorded trillions of keyboards, but I wanted Matt to play bass, and he hadn't played bass. I don't even know if he was really playing bass in the Rentals. I think it had been pretty much since the Weezer days that he hadn't really played bass, and so he was like, I guess I can come out and play bass, and he brought his rig that he used on Pinkerton, and we were just all standing there staring at it, being like, you use that for Pinkerton? We're just totally geeking out, and moments like that where it's just about who he is as a musician, he just comes and just sort of magic dust over top of things, and that's such a neat experience to be able to collaborate with people like that.
Holographic magic dust.
He was not there in person, and he did sprinkle holographic.
Yeah.
Dust.
Tegan, is it like a real communist nation where everybody's equal, but some people are more equal than others? I mean, you guys are the ultimate bosses, right?
We're the ultimate bosses, for sure. I like to think of anything that pertains to the band as a whole, the records itself. Absolutely, we write the songs and we're in charge of it all, and it's our record deal. But out on the road, if Sarah gets a free pair of shoes from a company, we certainly go and solicit to get everybody free shoes. And when the catering budget comes down the line, we split it equally amongst everyone. Though there are moments where I think to myself, this is untaxed dollars. I should be putting this in my pocket. It's a salary. But I don't know. I just try to keep everybody really happy because they're really great musicians. But ultimately, Sarah and I are never going to make everybody an equal member, and because we write, and I don't want to write with anyone, even Sarah. I just want to write my own songs and then bring them to the table. And so the only way to really make it fair and equal is to try to give everybody an equal piece of what is left, I guess.
It's funny, our mom growing up, she's a social worker, and she worked for a collective for 10 years, and she would come home, and sometimes she would be singing the praises of collective work. There was 11 or 12 people, I think, that they would have to sit down and make decisions together, the 12 of them. And there was days where she would come home and she would be like, we just need a boss. We need someone to come in, listen to everybody's opinions, and then come down with a judgment, with a decision. And I think that ultimately Tegan and I sort of we sort of like to work in this way where it's like everyone's opinion is
Valid.
we want to hear everybody's opinion about things, but ultimately there's like a judgment. We're not like a jury that's hung every day. Like, we know what we want to do, and if we get everybody's opinion and we decide to do something different, then they just sort of like they live with it.
Yeah. Plus,
We
Tegan.
get bananas instead of apples, and just no one gets to say anything about it once they're in the bus, you know.
Yeah. And plus Tegan and Sarah and Nat and Bergman
Yeah.
and Ted and Chris doesn't have the same ring to it,
It
as
really
Tegan and
doesn't.
Sarah.
No, totally. And the people that are out with us, I don't think that they necessarily, like, you know, we have like this really great backing band right now, and I don't know that they're necessarily interested in being equal members in a band where they make $100 a week. I think they like getting a salary and a percentage and
Jewels and stuff.
yeah, I think that they like to be
Holographic jewels.
those kind of musicians, and they've worked with some really incredible like people and done some incredible work, but I think that they're less interested in being like a bunch of dudes in a band, and they're more interested in being like a really great backing band that are supporting, you know, international acts and stuff. So I don't feel too guilty about it. I don't think we're going to change the name anytime soon.
They're like-
I don't know if they want us to.
They're out on
In
the
fact,
pool
when
deck
we
suntanning
introduce
right
them,
now.
sometimes I feel like they're horrified and shrinking back on the stage. Like, I don't think that they necessarily really even like it that
I think
much.
certain people are attracted to hired gun positions, you know, like, and there's like, I'm not saying there's less responsibility, it's just a different kind of responsibility.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
And you guys live have worked with some pretty impressive people as well. You know, like all sorts of people, but in particular, I noticed Neil Young and Bryan Adams. What's it like when you a younger group goes out and plays in front of an older
people.
crowd?
Well, Neil Young was actually the first tour we got in the United States. It was like we had just signed to, he has a little boutique label out of Santa Monica, and his manager runs it. And so we did this little indie deal, and then they were like, well, Neil's going out for the summer. We're going to send you guys out with him. And it was like, this sounds insane, and now 9 years later, I can say this more honestly without seeming like total jerk, but I didn't want to do it. I was terrified. I was like 18 years old, and I was like, a summer opening in amphitheaters with Neil Young is like people's dream, but for whatever reason that terrified me. I didn't want to do it. It seemed so scary, and it seemed like too big of a jump for us. Like, I wasn't totally confident that was like what was realistic for for our career. And it was probably the most important thing that ever happened to us, because we got to see the way most people, you know, you start in clubs or you start in bars and you sort of work your way up, and if you're lucky, you know, you start hitting these different levels in the industry and you sort of like learn as you go. And this was sort of like an internship at the highest level of, you know, of where you can go in this industry. And it was like we were able to sort of see like what an infrastructure of someone who is like iconic, you know, like the people that they have around them, from the management to the production levels to like his guitar tech and his sound guy. And in some cases these people have been with him for like 30 years. And so we really saw like the way that a tour operates, but also the way that they sort of operate as a family. And just watching Neil Young get to see him play like 30 shows or whatever, and get to see how he operates as a musician, it was so influential on how we made choices, you know, after that tour. And the big thing that I think there's a difference between a lot of artists don't like to do support tours. They're not interested in playing in front of other people's audiences. But playing in front of Neil's audience was like, it was difficult. It was like older people and like bikers, and we had to figure out how to get on stage every night. And if they weren't going to like our music, that was okay. But we needed to be able to like hold our own and have them respect us and have them think we were funny or whatever. And it opened up this door for us that we were like, we'll take anything. Well, we opened for, like you said, we opened for Bryan Adams in Germany. It was insane. We opened for Ryan Adams,
You're
the
probably
Killers.
the only group that's actually played with both Bryan
and Ryan. I know
Adams.
we're trying to mediate something, but between the two of them. But we've had the opportunity and the privilege to play with like some of the coolest artists out there, like young people to new bands to really established bands, and it's like a challenge every single time. You just have to like get out there and be like, okay, how do we make these people like get into us, like this project or whatever. And it just makes you very versatile. Like, you can just sort of put yourself in any kind of situation. It's like important, I think.